sorry this video is so late, but I got sick and also my previous video file was corrupted, so I had to do something from emergency files. This artwork here is Alice Stallion, Star Lily. He's a Relarian elf, or Elfini, from my world of Imagiscria. I decided I wanted to expand some definitions of that elven race on that world, and I also wanted a powerful elven wizard from the academy I'm working on that I've still not named, so I designed him. One of the brushes I used in Procreate here was a downloaded braids brush, and I filled in some of the details. I worked on the line art on its own layer, and I'll be doing the color underneath in a little bit. I like to flat a solid color and then alpha lock it, as well as using clipping mask layers to paint on top. I filled in all the shadows and basic colors of the skin before doing the hair. Sometimes I do hair and layers on top on separate layers, and sometimes I just layer it up in order on the same layer. You have a limited number of layers in Procreate, which actually helps you be more final with your decisions, I find, and sometimes it's good to use layers and sometimes it's good not to. It depends on each individual project and your mood at the time. I like to alpha lock the line layer in order to do color holds or color line art, and I'm working very carefully, going back and forth between different details. Sometimes I use multiply layers to do shadows, and other times I just use darker colors on the same color layer. I found it fairly easy to work on this painting because I was pretty inspired at the time and I had a very clear image of what I was going to paint, so it actually came out easy. Sometimes artwork comes out easier than other times. This was one of the more easy times. He's a member of the Relarian elves, which are very tall. I decided to add different details to my initial description. They have black markings on their skin around their eyes that look like mascara and are sometimes also referred to as mascara elves. The markings on his face are also something naturally present in his race. They tend to have thick, wavy hair. This is a painting I did back in April that I'm very proud of, but I actually hadn't shared online yet. I was doing it as an expression practice and as well as a practice of drawing 2 or more people in the same scene because I keep wimping out on doing that. I found a photograph online that I found extremely inspiring that showed a loving hug between friends, and I changed it into this character version based on the people. I'm not going to say who it was, on the off chance someone can figure it out in the comments, so leave your guesses in the comment section below, and we'll see if someone can figure out who this is. So, I've done some extra research to get this to fit the people that were involved based on what I know about them, because they are a little bit famous but not A-list celebrities. They're famous through online tabletop role-playing game, including Dungeons & Dragons, and you can find videos that have them on YouTube. This was based on a photo I found on Twitter. I completely changed the background and some of the coloration, as well as changing them from their original human forms into alternate forms. A sort of tiefling, which is more meant to be immortal, and a elven figure, which is more meant to represent the idea of a pixie. I also used several specialty brushes I wanted to try out that I'd recently downloaded at the time, including this glittery sparkle brush that I used for magical highlights on both of them. I decided to make the highlights more of a turquoise from the lights in the background. I also used a special bokeh light brush to make the background have those glowing light effects. I made sure all the highlights included this pale turquoise glitter, and I also went in on a separate layer here to do the shadows. Here you can see I turned off some of the layers in order to focus on the shadows and highlights and tones. This was a bit of a tonal study. As I said, I did this painting for practice and study purposes, and I wanted to make sure I did a really good job because I was trying to learn and remember several things I'd already learned. I also painted a special animated background here for this artwork that I'm very proud of, that I feel represents the feeling of one of the people in this photo extremely well. Sort of a moving poem, artwork, abstract painting animation. But I'm also proud of that, so I thought I'd mention it. Now, when I worked on the skin tones here, I looked directly at the reference. The skin tones were quite bright, but they actually look more pink because of the contrast with the turquoise in the background and the lighting effects, which I ended up liking. I really like how these colors pop. I find it very vivid and colorful. I wanted to capture the complexity of the facial expressions here. There is actually a bit of a sorrow in the man's face that I don't think I quite captured. There is more joy than sorrow on both their faces, but there is a slight amount of sorrow or worry on his face. I don't think I quite captured that, except maybe very subtly in the eyebrows. I also obviously added the horns on, and I made sure to change the clothing from the original photo to what I preferred as well. This is an anime style picture I did for my boyfriend, who still wishes to remain unnamed, but he's been mentioned in previous videos before. There was a create your own avatar game online where he made an anime version of me, but the options for males were extremely limiting, but he wanted an anime version of himself. So I told him I'd do one for him he could use as his profile picture on Twitter. Here I'm doing a version without the beard first and the beard, as he currently has a beard, although I do wish he would shave. So I saved both copies, the bearded version and the beardless, so he can trade it out if he shaves or have a bearded version when he's not shaved. The line art is on its own layer, and I had a special way of doing the beard line art on its own layer as well. I made sure to alpha lock that layer to get the color line art, and I made sure to have a sort of shading in the color line art in this case as well. I didn't want to overdo the complexity of anything in this picture because I wanted to keep it in a fairly simplified style. On reflection, I think I maybe should have made the background actually a little paler for better contrast, but at the time it looked good. Once I saw the shrunken down version, I realized I maybe should have made the background paler than the final version. I ended up designing a unique font for the word here for Sardonyx, which represents him and a fantasy character version of him rather well, and I'm happy with it. Well, I really couldn't recover the messed up footage for a video I filmed traditionally. I tried several times to fix it so I could use it, but it just didn't work. I also got sick for a couple days, and that's why such a long delay. I hope you consider subscribing if you enjoy my videos, and if you do, please click the notification bell for post notifications. I aim for a new video every Wednesday, but sometimes things happen. Feel free to leave questions, suggestions, constructive criticisms, and other comments in the comments section below. Please like the video if you liked it. Goodbye!